Hello, everybody. Now, today we are going to discuss one contemporary issue, and that's the Syrian crisis, the recent Syrian crisis as such. Now, everybody knows that the militant group, the Islamic militant group, was HTS, was responsible for what? Overthrowing the Assad regime. Seizure of Damascus took place recently on Sunday, that's 8th of December, and the Bashar al-Assad regime was thrown off. But let's see the background of the Syrian crisis. You can see a map of Syria has been drawn, and Syria, this part, the part which is located towards the east of Mediterranean Sea, this part is called as what? This part is called as Levant. And Syria shares border with Turkey, Iraq, Jordan, Israel also, Lebanon also. So share borders with a number of nations. And Syria is strategically located. When you talk about the Arab Spring of 2010, which started in Tunisia, it spread to Syria also. Arab Spring started why? Because there were two main reasons behind Arab Spring. One was unemployment among youth, and second was what? The despotic, corrupt monarchs of the Arab world. So it started in Tunisia in 2010 and spread to Libya, Bahrain, Egypt, and it plunged Syria into a crisis. So it plunged Syria into a crisis, and this crisis continued for till recently. It continues. So if you look at Syria, if we see the demography of Syria as such, the demography of Syria includes what? 60 to 65% is Sunni Arabs, 10% is Alawite Shiite, 10% is Arab Christian, 10% Kurds. Kurds are present on the border that Syria shares with Turkey. 10% is Druze, and Druze is present on the border that Syria shares with Israel. And as far as the Assad family is concerned, the Assad family has ruled Syria for more than 50 years. So he's an Alawite Shiite. They are Alawite Shiite. And the Syrian government, the Assad regime, was supported by whom? It was supported by Iran. It was supported by Russia. It was supported by also China. Iran has a military pact with Syria. And the Assad regime is known to openly support Hamas and Hezbollah also. So they are known to openly support Hamas and Hezbollah. So when the Syrian crisis started as an offshoot of Arab Spring in the year 2010, we can see the rebels were who? The rebels were Sunni mainly, and they were supported by US. So conflict, competing interest between a number of parties is present in Syria, which includes Iran, Russia, China, US, and the Assad regime was supported by Iran and Russia. So the rebels were supported by US, and US formed a coalition called Friends of Syria, Syrian Democratic Forces also, and this was responsible for fighting the Assad regime. But at the same time, we can see another development also took place. In Iraq, ISIS emerged, and it emerged as a rebellion to the Maliki government, which was backed by the US. ISIS is a Sunni, calls for Sunni hegemony as such. And the time was very conducive for ISIS to emerge also in Syria. So ISIS went ahead and captured what? It captured 1/3 of Syria and Iraq at that time, and it was the richest terrorist organization of the world that time. So you can see the demography of Syria is like this. But when the Syrian war continued, plunged Syria into a civil war, so Syrian civil war continued, we can see the climax was also reached as an alleged chemical weapon attack took place also in Ghouta farmland, where it was said that 300 people died. And both the parties were blaming each other for such attack. Sarin gas was used for the chemical weapon attack. So both the parties blamed. But in 2013, US and Russia, they agreed on a treaty. They were uh, pushed Assad regime to sign a treaty for capping its chemical weapon program. So this happened earlier as such. But as far as the recent crisis is concerned, the recent rebellion, we can see military opposition command, there are three parties to it who were opposed to the Assad regime. First party is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS. And this is what? This is nothing but Al-Qaeda branch in Syria. Remember that when ISIS also emerged in Iraq, it was nothing but a mutated form of Al-Qaeda only, which was rejected by the people of Iraq. But it emerged like that. So it's an Al-Qaeda branch in Syria, and it was founded by Jabhat al-Nusra. That's why it's called as the Nusra Front. And presently it is led by Abu Muhammad al-Johani. So that's the main opposition. And this is the main militia which was responsible for overthrowing the Assad regime. The second military command includes what? Syrian Democratic Forces. Now this is what? This is Kurdish militias. And this is backed by US. Now this is present where? This is present on the northeastern side of Syria. And it fights against which? It fights against also the Syrian National Army. Syrian National Army is Turkish-backed force that is opposed to Assad regime, as well as it is opposed to SDF, that is Syrian Democratic Forces. Do remember here one thing, that there is a significant factor in Syria, and this is called as what? This is called as the Kurds. Kurds are ethnic groups. They are mainly identifiable with region, not with religion as such. Because Kurds also consist of Sunnis, 90% of them is Sunnis, Shias also. They also consist of ethnic groups like Yazidis. So they are more identifiable with region rather than religion as such. And the Kurds are backed by whom? Backed by US. Kurds demand a separate Kurdistan in this region. The main area where Kurds are present, towards the north of Syria. North of Syria means that it would be sharing border with whom? Turkey. So it's present towards the south of Turkey and also towards the north of Syria. There was a group which is called as YPG, the People's Right Group, and this was the main unit of Syrian Democratic Forces, which was backed by US. And this, in the year 2019, was there was an agreement signed between US and Russia, and this was supported by Turkey. By virtue of that agreement, what Turkey did was it tried to push YPG 30 kilometers away from the Syrian-Turkey border. But remember that this was a main unit of Kurdish, main part of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which was responsible for fighting the ISIS. So there was a contention that, there was a belief that maybe that ISIS may re-emerge in this area because of negation of YPG. Same contention can be seen here. But if we talk about the interest of parties, there's one country, US, which has an interest because US has a control of the eastern part of Syria. Then we can see the Kurds are under force. Although there are many other interest also, countries which have interest in Syria. For example, UAE, Egypt, they do not want HTS to take over. Why? Because this may result in what? Result in the harsh Islamic laws which would be imposed on the people, and some Syrians also believe that. And this may lead to emergence of ISIS again. Turkey is another party which has interest. It does not want to see Syrian Democratic Forces. Why? Because it is opposed to the Kurdish militias. So that is another party. Russia, Iran, what they did was Russia, Iran, even the Hezbollah, they supported the Assad regime. But at the end, they were responsible for drawing away their hand from this conflict, which led to the fall of Damascus. So all these are conflicting parties. Thank you much. This is in brief the Syrian crisis.